Imagine a world where the dragons of House Targaryen, the creatures that flew over the Seven Kingdoms, found themselves transported across time and space to another realm, Middle-earth, a land with its own share of ancient evils and powerful magic. What if, by some magical accident, the entire roster of the dragons from the House of the Dragons series, from the Dance of the Dragons, were to suddenly appear in Middle-earth during the timeline of the War of the Ring? How would they fare in a world already inhabited by creatures of fire and shadow? Would they shift the balance of power in the eternal struggle between good and evil there? And what would likely happen? Let's explore this hypothetical crossover, beginning with the origins of these dragons from Westeros, and then gradually get to how they would settle in this more expansive world of J R R Tolkien. Let's get to it. So dragons from the world of A Song of Ice and Fire are creatures of flesh and magic. Native to the lost civilization of Valyria, they were born in the fiery cauldrons of volcanoes, a product of arcane magic and secret arts long since forgotten. The Valyrians mastered these dragons through blood magic, forging a powerful bond between dragon and rider that allowed them to conquer vast territories and build a freehold, essentially an empire. These dragons, while intelligent, do not possess the cunning and conversational abilities of their Middle-earth counterparts. They act primarily on instinct, driven by their natural impulses, their hunger, the need to protect their territory, and a bond to their riders. In terms of size, the dragons of A Song of Ice and Fire vary greatly, from the massive Vhagar during the Dance of the Dragons, whose shadow could blot out the sun, to the younger and smaller dragons born during the Civil War. Their power is rooted in their physical size and their fire breath being able to melt steel, stone, and flesh. While awe-inspiring, the dragons of Middle-earth and those of A Song of Ice and Fire differ significantly. Middle-earth's dragons are more intelligent and malicious, capable of complex thought and speech, while the Westerosi dragons are more like intelligent bees with an almost telepathic bond to their rider. In size, the greatest dragons of Middle-earth, such as Ancalagon the Black, was mountain-sized, and that says it all. Their motivations also differ. Middle-earth dragons often seek power, treasure, or dominance, whereas the Targaryen dragons are more like smart creatures that follow their riders' instincts. In terms of raw power, the dragons of Middle-earth again hold an edge, especially with their natural cunning and overall size, cause in nature, bigger is always stronger. However, the Targaryen dragons aren't really pushovers. Vermithor and Vhagar could put up a good fight against Smaug and no doubt dominate over the cold drakes of the north. And when bonded to a skilled rider, these Westerosi dragons can perform maneuvers and feats of coordination that even a smart dragon might struggle to counteract. Also, lifespan is another point of divergence between these dragons. While the Westerosi ones do live very long lives, with Balerion crossing 2 centuries, and Vhagar being 181 years, those in Middle-earth are effectively immortal unless they are killed. Now imagine the Targaryen dragons suddenly appearing in Middle-earth right at the time of their greatest number during the Dance of the Dragons. They would find themselves in a strange land filled with creatures and magics they do not know. Being instinctive creatures, they would likely seek out territories similar to their native volcanic homelands like Valyria and Dragonstone. By this logic, the most probable place for them to settle down would be Mordor. The volcanic activity and presence of Mount Doom might remind them of the smoking peaks of Valyria. Here the Targaryen dragons might carve out new layers for themselves. Yet Mordor is not a fertile land. Its lack of prey items and limited food sources would soon drive them to seek sustenance elsewhere, likely to the Misty Mountains or other ranges teeming with wildlife and livestock of the Free Peoples. Because in Mordor, there exists only Felbees, orcs, and trolls, and I imagine that they would not really prefer these spicy items. The Efelduath, though, the range that separates Mordor from Gondor, might become a prime nesting ground. So as the Targaryen dragons settle into this place and maybe other mountain ranges in Middle-earth, like the Misty Mountains, the Ered Mithrin, and the Ered Luin ranges, they would brood and begin to lay eggs. However, without the magic that connects them to a rider, the eggs might not even hatch, and for those that do, the dragons would grow to become wild and feral. The bigger ones, though, might struggle to survive, and even fight other creatures for dominance, probably killing off Mordor's monsters like the Felbees, the trolls, and the spiders, and they would establish territorial dominance over the Efelduath range. If they were to survive, they would be rarely seen by the free peoples, and only in the remote regions where they lie and where they would hunt or brood in caverns. Of course, for those that were seen, they would be a nuisance to shepherds and farmers, but not really mortal threats, because these dragons, unlike the more evil counterparts created by Morgoth, mainly feed on livestock and are rarely seen to hunt people. If these dragons were to really make their home in the mountains near Mordor, it would not be long before they attract the attention of Sauron. So at first he would be shocked of the appearance of wild and morally neutral dragons that have eradicated the other flying creatures in the Eiffel Duat and the Sirit Ungol areas. So as a Maya, a powerful spiritual being with deep knowledge of the dark arts and the manipulation of wills, Sauron would certainly see them as a potential asset in his war against the free peoples of Middle-earth. He might try to seduce these dragons, using his dark influence to bring them under his control. The older and more powerful dragons like Silverwing, Meleys, Vermithor or Vhagar could be of great use to him, tearing down the defenses of Gondor and burning cities to ash. However, he would quickly find out that these weren't Morgoth's creatures and that they do not respond to his calls in any way. If for some reason he was to try to capture and tame one and was successful, he would soon find his forces set ablaze. And then, since he is a being of nigh unlimited knowledge, he would come to know of a blood bond that is needed to tame one of them. For that was also a type of blood magic from the Shadowlands of Ashai in the world of Westeros. Darkness knows darkness. But here's the catch: unlike the Valyrians, he doesn't have a form nor a physical body, and so he cannot perform the blood rituals necessary to forge a true bond with one of these creatures. So instead, he might try to use his servants, one of the Easterling lords or the Haradrim, to undergo such rituals, though this would be a challenging and perhaps ultimately a futile endeavor. If such a thing can be done, then the free peoples of Middle-earth would face a force that had never been seen for an age, the likes of which could be compared to Smaug or the Balrog of Moria. The lands of Gondor would be sure to fall, and Minas Tirith torched to the ground. But that's still a really big but, a slim scenario. However, for the dragons that settle on the other mountain ranges, like the Ered Mithrin or the Ered Luin or the Misty Mountains, the free peoples of Middle-earth would face their own challenges. They would first of all fear these creatures and maybe try to kill them, since dragons in this world have always been thought of being evil and servants of the Dark Lord of Morgoth. And when they find out that they are in fact somewhat more docile and like wild animals, they would just learn to avoid and distance themselves from these creatures. The notion of becoming dragon riders wouldn't really be on their minds, and even if they imagine such a thing, it is forbidden for them to engage in dark or black arts and blood magic, and they would still have no clue whatsoever as to how to create such a bond in the first place. But then there is one figure who might try to tame them and might be successful: the White Wizard of Isengard, Saruman. Once the leader of the Istari, he had always walked a morally grey path. Obsessed with power and the secrets of how to attain it, he could attempt to forge his own bond with a Targaryen dragon. Such a deed could make him a great new power in Middle-earth, and also set him on a three-way struggle with Sauron and with the free peoples who stand against the Dark Lord. But then again, bonding with a dragon comes with it a lot of nuances. For one, we don't really know how it's done in the first place, and even for the Targaryens in Westeros, the chances are slim to claim a dragon. Remember the Red Sowing? There were dozens killed, and only a few that were chosen. The most likely scenario is that these Targaryen dragons would certainly bring new chaos and danger to Middle-earth. Their overall impact, though, on the struggle between good and evil would likely not be that significant. Without their riders, they would revert back to their basal state as wild creatures, driven by their instincts, rather than a lust for conquest or destruction. They might destroy a few farms, capture a lot of cattle, scatter some armies that try to hunt them down, or create new layers in the mountains, but they would not become a decisive force in the War of the Ring. So while the Targaryen dragons would undoubtedly create panic, especially for the free peoples, it would not change the course of its history in any fundamental way. That is, except if Samwise and Frodo were to stumble onto one of them and they were killed, along with Shelob. But that's a low probability. And with that, we come to the end of the video. Now, if you like this one, then watch this other one too, And do check out our channel for other dragon and monster content. We might have things you haven't seen before. Like, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video. Take care, guys.